More people. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Marcela Villan from Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I am board member of this amazing Global Teachers Club. I'm delighted to welcome you all today to our June Global Teachers Club Gathering 2025. It's a long time since we last met, so it's great. Please, can you all mute your mics? It's a long time since we last met, so it's a great pleasure to be with you all today. You know that the Global Teachers Club has been running with no interruption since 2020 pandemic times, offering teachers continuous professional development through these monthly gatherings with experts.
Kalau begini
And
berarti aku nggak
also,
muncul kan?
please mute your mics. And also offering projects to work with students at an international level. Today, we have an amazing offer for you. Here is a video summary of what the club has been offering so far. I will be sharing screen for you to see.
There's no sound.
Here it is.
There we go.
Okay, so this time it's a great pleasure for us. This is just a summary of what the Teacher Club has done because, I mean, the video has not been updated with the latest talks we had. So this is just a summary. But I would like to start today by expressing our sincere gratitude to every one of you for being here. As usual, it's a great pleasure to see so many amazing teachers from all over the world with us. Could you please write in the chat box where you are located at the moment? We are ready to read you. Where are you joining from? I see Noemi from Argentina as well. Okay, also a solutionary teacher. Okay, who else has joined? Sonsini from Costa Rica. Let's see, chat box. Wow, amazing places. Kathmandu, Nepal. Indonesia, Argentina, Azerbaijan. Okay, Nigeria. Such a powerful club. Yes, Noemi. Indonesia again. India, Namibia. Azerbaijan again. Gran Canaria, Spain, of course. Indonesia again. Bahrain, Malaysia. Okay, Indonesia, Pakistan, Italy, Stefania, Kawan, lovely to see you. Costa Rica, yes, great Sonsini, India, wow, lots of friends as well. This is amazing. We are all here together, yes, as usual, to work for the betterment of education around the world. Could you now, thank you very much for joining, yes, and taking the time to be here with us. We are honored, yes, to have and to extend a warm welcome at this moment to our special guest today, Ms. Julie Meltzer, Director of K-12 Teaching and Learning at the Institute for Humane Education. Julie, it's a big pleasure to have you here, and we are honored to have you here with us.
Thank
So I
you.
yield the floor to you so that you can continue.
Thank you so much, Marcella. It's such a pleasure to be here with everyone and to celebrate with us the third showcase of the Solutionary Teachers work from the Global Teachers Club. This is an alliance and partnership that has been going for 3 years now, and we have here on the call joining us several people who have been with us since the beginning, and we're part of the original pilot program for the SDG Solutionary Pilot. What we do at the Institute for Humane Education is offer a free Solutionary Micro-Credential course that's all online each year. The next one will be starting in August, and we will share the registration information about that for you when I finish speaking. And each year, at the end of the course, we highlight the work of some of the Global Teachers Club members who were in the course and who brought the solutionary framework to their students. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to give you a very brief overview of what it means when we say solutionary and the solutionary framework, because many of you are familiar with our work, but some of you may not be. And I want to make sure that we all understand what it is that we're doing here. First, I want to say that the Institute, which is an NGO in the United States, a nonprofit, is working with uh, teachers across the United States in about 20 different states and in about 30 countries around the world, many of the countries that are represented by people here on this call. And we are very, very excited because what this means is that we are starting a solutionary movement, a movement of educators who are bringing this work to their students and empowering their students, giving them agency, optimism, and skills to address issues they care about in their schools and communities and help them to see that they can do something about it. They don't have to be helpless. They don't have to be hopeless. They can do something about it. And the amazing teachers who are bringing this work to their students to bring inquiry to action projects that are student-led is incredible. So a solutionary is a little bit more than just a problem solver. A solutionary takes a look at what is around and identifies and investigates unjust, unsustainable, and unhumane systems and innovates and implements solutions that do the most good and the least harm for people, animals, and the environment. And this last piece about doing the most good and least harm is very, very important to the center of solutionary work. We, as a human species, are very good at coming up with answers to problems that cause more problems. And we don't want to educate the next generation to be thinking about that. We want to educate the next generation in a way that is going to help them to think ahead of time. Is this a good answer? Is it going to help people, animals, and the environment to thrive? Because we want our answers to do that. And we want students to be thinking in that ethical way as they plan their actions. So the solutionary framework itself, we're very excited in the last year, was selected for the 100.org Global Collection, which means it was identified as one of the education innovations worldwide that has the most potential to make the most change. And we're very proud of that. And that is, again, because of a lot of you. The solutionary framework has 4 parts. Students identify a problem in their school or their community after studying about that problem. Maybe they start with the SDGs or they start with the school curriculum. Then they do a deep investigation into the problem by talking to stakeholders, deepening their understanding, using systems thinking to analyze what's keeping that problem in place. What are the mindsets? What are the systems? What are the behaviors that are keeping that problem in place? And what are people all over the world doing to address that problem? Because if it's a problem where you are, it's probably a problem somewhere else. And it's important that the students understand that there are people all over the world working on these issues. And if we join efforts, we can make a big difference. And then innovating a solution. Many of you work with design thinking, and this is where students can innovate a solution that, again, does the most good and least harm for people, animals, and the environment. They make a plan to implement their solution. They take action, share their solution, and then they assess and reflect and celebrate and think about what would we tell other people who are working on this same issue if they want to work on it? How did we do as a group? How could we be better problem solvers and change makers? So the framework is very exciting because it can do three things. It can help teachers to design an inquiry to action unit. It can also help teachers to facilitate the unit because it shows you where you are in the process. It shows the students where you are in the process. And it teaches the students an ethical problem solving process they can take wherever they live or work in the future. So it's an inquiry to action. But here is the piece I want people to take away from this session. You have to know something before you can do something that makes a difference. So it's about helping students to actively learn about the problem, actively talk to people, actively collect data, investigate, and then to actually take action. Because as teachers, we like to teach and teach and teach, and sometimes the students never get to take action. But if they don't know about the problem deeply and they haven't come up with a good plan, then they can't take action that's meaningful. We don't want to take band-aid action. Lots of students are just doing projects, and that's great. But this is about teaching the students how they're going to be able to solve problems now and in the future. And it's about giving them that agency so that they know that they can make a positive difference. So students take all kinds of actions as part of the solutionary framework. They can take an immediate action and then think about how they can get people to think about how it could be more solutionary. What would the call to action be? They could do some service learning with an organization or an institution that is in their area that is doing work on the problem that they think is solutionary. They could advocate or have a petition or policy change. They could create an education awareness campaign. What would make that solutionary is the call to action, not just informing people, but saying what they could do. What actions could they take that would also help to solve the problem? Or they could come up with an invention or an intervention that would make the situation different. It would change something important. So sometimes people say, well, is it fair to ask students to do solutionary work? I mean, there's lots of problems in the world, and do we want to burden the students with thinking about all these problems? And what we hear again and again from the students is that this is important because they want to do real work in the real world for real issues, and they want to feel like these problems can be solved. When we first had the pilot project with the Global Teachers Club, afterwards we asked high school students from 5 different countries, after they did solutionary projects, what did they think was the difference? And this is what they said. 96% of those students said they have more compassion and understanding of others' lives and perspectives. 92% said they liked working on a real problem. 87% said they're a better critical and systems thinker from doing this project. 91% said they're better at cooperating with others towards a common goal, which is critical because none of us can change the world by ourselves. We have to be able to work with others. And 93% said that they had more confidence that they could take action to make a positive difference. That is transformational education right there. Students doing solutionary projects supported by their teachers who understand the process and understand their roles in supporting the work can help create students who feel like these students did. So the next solutionary course, and we'll put this up later too, after hearing from these amazing teachers we're going to hear from, it starts on Saturday, August 9th. This is being sponsored by the Institute for Humane Education and the Global Teachers Club. And you can register. It's limited and it is at no charge to members of the Global Teachers Club. And if you want to read more about the Solutionary Framework, you can go to our website, humaneeducation.org, and you can look at my blog and other places and really get more information and tools that you can use to do this work. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our showcase presenters. We're going to do it in a little different order
Ay,
than
udah
John has.
banyak kita ngebel gini loh.
Somebody is not muted here. That's okay. Um, and we're going to hear from Alfonso Rivera in Beijing, from Noir Abbas in Pakistan, and from Patricia Bergstrom in the Canary Islands in Spain. And we're going to turn over the screen to Noir Abbas from Pakistan, who's going to share some of the work that she's done since she took the Solutionary Micro-Credential course with us in this past year. Over to you, Noah.
Hi everyone, my name is Nawal Abbas and I'm from Pakistan. Just to introduce myself, I am not a traditional teacher. I actually develop curriculum and policy for a network of schools, and I also have a small NGO school that I run on the side in an underprivileged area. So I work with private and public schools, and most of the work that I do is it's lesson planning, but it's based on the very particular context of a school that you have and the resources that you have, the teachers that you have, and basically student profiles that you have. Because not every student in Pakistan is the same. We've got like a massive disparity between the different kind of students that attend different schools. And we've got all the systems. We've got IB, we've got high school, we've got Cambridge, we've got metric, which is our own local context. And each of these have their own teaching pedagogical styles, their methods, and so on and so forth. Right. So I would like to talk about both the sides of solutionary education, like how did it go in a private school and how did it go in the public school. Yeah. So, okay. So first off, I'm going to turn the stopwatch on so that I don't cross my time limit. Okay. So we had to, so you have to understand that where I'm coming from, we've never done something like this before. The most imagination that we've included in the classroom has been project-based learning. But even that has been very, this is the project, these are 5 things you have to do, these are your materials, and this is a marking rubric that you have. If it looks like this, you get 5 marks. If you present it like this, you get 5 marks. If parents like it, you get 5 marks, and then you dust your hands and you move on to the next one. Right. So this is the first time that we actually got the students to start thinking about what do they want to do a project on, and how their project had to be very relevant to their own surroundings, their own context, and basically saving the world around them. Right. So when we introduced this, students really liked the idea, but they didn't know what to do. So they would say, oh, we want to save animals, or we want to save trees, or we want to do something about electricity. But then they wouldn't know what to do next or how to go about it. So we ended up including the solutionary framework into not only our training for teachers, because then we had to train the teachers in a specific way to make sure that they can guide the students to think in a solutionary manner. We also added it into the students' learning activities. So like then their activities would revolve around, for example, take 15 minutes to brainstorm a problem that is related to you. For example, you can look at the smog, you can look at stray animals, you can look at construction, you can look at loss of biodiversity, and then take your time researching what that problem is first. So it was a stepwise construction of how, and this was applicable to all schools, right? Then we also made it a part of their thinking routine. So like if you look at something like, for example, you shared the Mogu approach, that was really good because initially kids would have like a very stereotypical understanding of solutionary, like, oh, let's plant a tree or let's just stop using plastic. But it wasn't as simple as that. We wanted the kids to innovate and invent and then implement. And we also wanted to give them the space to make mistakes with their implementation and then go back to the drawing board and fix their implementation, right? So it was a purely student-led sort of thinking project. And then based on that, we had to like upheave the entire school assessment structure, the school reports, how we present it to parents, because parents would be like, okay, how's my kid gonna get a grade based on this? Like his exam isn't gonna be focused on solutionary. So what's up, you know? So then we had to like, you know, change our assessment styles, change our results, kind of convince the parent body as well that, okay, no, you have to let the kids do this. It's something to do with their thinking process, right? So anyway, so to include the solutionary framework, we had to do a lot of restructuring. But on the bright side, the students and teachers were really excited to do it, especially the students. The students really loved working with what they saw, how they felt, and how they could actually do something to save the world, because there's so much helplessness going around where, you know, students either feel completely lost or they feel like there's nothing they can do about major climate change issues, right? So yeah, so then I had three projects that I thought I would talk about that yeah, that show exactly how it went down. So first of all was the project that I actually graduated the micro-credential course with. It was a world building project. And keeping all of these things in mind, my basic area of concern was that the school this project was being initiated in did not have any resources. They did not have any physical resources, they did not have any digital resources, and they didn't know how to implement the solutionary framework, which was interesting because in my head, they needed it the most because they were in a very high impact area of the city where their lives were being impacted the most by climate change. So, you know, you want to talk about the heat waves, they were being impacted, electricity shortage, they were being impacted. There's no availability of internet, things like that. Again, they were being impacted. So they needed the most. So what I ended up doing was build an entire lesson plan based on the four I's of solutionary framework, which was based on world building. So it was all imagination. So they would build their own world. They would make the setting for it. They would make the people that live in it. They would make the government, the policies, the laws. Once they had made the world, then they would identify a problem with the world they had created. You know, so if they want to look at overpopulation, they want to look at lack of electricity, they want to look at loss of biodiversity, pinpoint that problem. And then this was completely discussion based. And this was just basically students writing down notes, building on their world constantly. So then they would identify the problem in that world, and then they would identify that exact problem from their world in their local context as well. So if they would say that, oh, you know, like there's pollution in my world, then we would say, okay, where do you see pollution in your life? And they would say, oh, right outside my house, or right outside the school, or when I'm walking from school to home, I see it in this canal. The canal is completely clogged. And you'd be like, okay, so then come up with solutions in your world, how you think ideally this would be dealt with. And once they had investigated those different solutions, which were amazing because we allowed them to be as imaginative as possible. So they could do things like, okay, zap all the pollution away, take all the pollution into like in another dimension and leave it there. And then you would constantly ask them questions like, okay, if you're leaving your trash in another dimension, is that solving the problem or just making it go away? So then they would think about it further that, okay, that's not a solution. That's just sort of like a bandage that you're sticking on top of a problem, right? So we had a lot of these intellectual discussions, conversations, and the kids really liked it. Again, this was completely no resource. And then when they came to like a steady plan of action that they could implement with laws and proper materials and everything they needed in their world, we translated it into the real world and said, okay, now let's make a poster about this. Let's write a couple of letters to the local administration, to your parents, to people in that area. And then let's see how we can do this. What you did in your world, let's see how we can do that in real life. So that was like one project that we did, and it was a lot of fun. And we were most happy about it because it was purely just based on brainstorming, talking, debating, sharing each, points, opinions, criticizing each other's points and opinions. So yeah, so it was really nice. The second one that we had was this was more of a personal one because we wanted the kids to have more of a hands-on understanding of how solutionary frameworks work. Because this was all in our heads, right? But then the second one, we wanted them to start with something they can actually do physically. So we took a more emotional approach rather than a straight-on, reform one. So we said, okay, look at a problem that personally affects you or that you don't like. So we kept it very specific to likes and dislikes at the start. And the kids highlighted that they did not like that they had, so they didn't have electricity a lot. So they would have a really old guard who would go over all over the school and ring the bell by hand. And the kids said they didn't like that because the guard was really old and he got tired. So we said, okay, start with that. How do you come up with a solution as simple as that? And then you have to keep in mind there's no electricity. So the investigation stage was a lot of fun because they came up with so many options like, okay, all the teachers can use their phones to play a music at the same time. And that did not work, right? Then they said, okay, we'll get an automatic ring, a bell, and that didn't work. And we just kept brainstorming till they figured out that they're gonna make a police system. They're gonna like install a bell in the middle of the school, attach it to a rope, take the rope to that same old guard, and then the guard can just pull it from wherever he's sitting. So then we included all the subjects into it. So we got science to do the physics of it. We got math to do the measurements. How much rope do you need? How high does the bell have to be? What would, the motion look like? And then we used like, the English lessons to just write reflective answers. So this was more of a personal one just to get them introduced to the idea of looking at a problem and then wanting to solve it, right? And then the final one was like a more mainstream one that we did, and that's something I'm really, really proud of because schools in general generate a lot of paper waste. No matter how digital, at least we try to be, or how much we try to incorporate paperless learning, at some point we do generate paper, whether it's in the form of tests or worksheets or books. And we wanted to do something with that because we had a lot of paper. So the kids started investigating different things. They wanted to recycle paper, so they recycled it. They actually made their own paper made out of waste paper, but then we couldn't write on that because it was so porous. So we were like, okay, back to the drawing board. Then they kept innovating. They watched so many DIY videos and so many like videos on YouTube, what to do with paper waste. Ultimately, they ended up making this paper mache material. It's kind of like plaster, but it's made out of paper. It's made out of paper, water, and some parts of glue. And they really mush it together and make a clay out of it. And then they make little, they can make anything out of it. So they ended up making these little keychains or little like animal sculptures, and they would sell them at different festivals and raise money for the school as well. And we did that once because it was a project and we thought it was really nice. In fact, I would love to share pictures of these paper mache animals that they made because they were really cute. And it was so successful that then we ended up making it into a sort of like a school process. So every Friday, they take the worksheets for the whole week and they turn it into that clay. And then we keep that clay for whenever we need it for like tokens or souvenirs or anything. So then we don't have to buy gifts for visitors who are coming. We don't have to pay for like awards or certificates. We just use that small thing that they've made out of paper mache. And it's a very nice token as well. So we've come this far. My next question to them in like maybe 6 months after they've celebrated this is that ultimately even that small thing is waste at some point. So then how do you want to take it further and make sure that even that much doesn't exist? But we're gonna hold off on that because we don't want to overwhelm them just now. So solutionary framework in like a whole bunch of capacities is a lot of fun. And the best thing about it is that the kids have so much fun with it. Like the kids are actually so happy to be working with things that they know about, things that they can solve, and then having a very tangible result in front of them. And this helps them become very future change makers as well, because then if they start small, they start thinking that, hey, if we came this far, we can go further. So we've noticed this trend as well, that initially when we used to ask children what they want to be, they would say, oh, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be an engineer. But now they would actually say stuff like, oh, I want to be the mayor and I want to clean the canal, or I want to be an activist and I want to do something about animals. And so like, they're increasing their imagination and because their power is increasing as well, then I feel like they're looking at these different pathways that they can take with that. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Everybody, think about all of the power and excitement that the students have just because of what Noah was talking about. Thank you so much, Noah. That was
Thank you.
fantastic. To give a sense of just different ways that you can take this. Okay, we're going to go over to Patricia and ask Patricia to share what she's been doing over on the Canary Islands with her students. Over to you, Patricia.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
you're
I'm having a bit of a situation here
no,
with
you're great. You're
Yes.
fine.
yeah, it's okay. Okay, so if my phone dies, I'm gonna have to switch to my laptop since I'm sitting in a public place. It's a bit of a weird place, but anyway, it's can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, so if I check in with you, just oops. If I check in with you, can you just let me know, if you can see things or not? Right. So
You're set.
the school where I've been working, can you hear? Yeah. Good. Okay. So the school where I've been working is a British school based in the Canary Islands, and they work with GTC curriculum. So it's very difficult to integrate anything into the actual lesson plans because it becomes the time is very, very short and people aren't very open for it. So what I've done is I've integrated it in an after-school club called Student Voice. Student Voice is a club where all the members who want to voluntarily come in there, they work on either developmental, environmental, or fundraising projects. But it's student-led, so they are the ones that come up with what they're doing. The solutionary framework for me has been a very, very important ally in this work because by giving the students a framework to work with, it helped them go deeper and it helped them as well follow some guidelines while they were actually doing the work. So I'm going to be talking about one of our things here, our project, which is a second-hand uniform sale. I'm afraid I'm not allowed to share these photos, so if you could not take any screenshots while I'm sharing the photos, that would be really appreciated. I have blocked out their faces just in case, but just So the second-hand uniform sale came about because a student realized that, well, actually, it's one student 2 years ago realized that there was a lot of uniforms that families would have to sort of throw away, or they were taking up space in their houses or whatever. So she came up with the idea that why don't we sell uniform secondhand in school? And then the idea, but the school makes a lot of revenue on uniform sales. So they had to go into identifying, first of all, what the problem was, of course, and then they had to investigate and see who did they have to speak to get the school on board. So a lot of investigation went into that stage because they had to not only come up with how to get the uniforms, but they also had to come up with how are we going to get the school to accept us selling uniforms at a lower price where. So it was a very interesting project there. Can you still hear me? Can you just put the thumbs up or something, Julie? Yeah, great. Brilliant. Okay, so the investigative bit. So what we did was, oops, it's not working with me here. So first of all, they identified, of course, the what the actual problem was, and then they had meetings with the headmaster, they had meetings with the different people, and since we were going to give the money to Aldeas Infantiles, it's a local charity that works actually all over the world, but we're giving it to the local branch. we had the representative for Aldeas Infantiles come in to speak to the team that was going to be working with this project, so that they could also find out what was going on with the money that they would raise, where would it go, in what respect would it be used, and how would it really be implemented into their NGO. So they also had to investigate the impact on the courses, of course. So the course, because students grow, uniforms become small. It gets to a point where you don't have any more cousins or siblings to give it to. So you have to sort of do something with this uniform. And families actually had a big problem with this because they didn't know where to put it. So what happened was that they set up the campaign, they emailed parents, they put up posters, the registration of these are pictures from different projects, but the process has been going on for all of them. We've been using the solutionary framework in all these projects. So even though I'm talking only about one project, we're talking about that the framework has actually been used in all the projects that the Student Voice members are doing. So for the endangered species, for whatever, they've been using it for absolutely all projects. Coming back to the uniform sale, tell them that actually this was a really good thing because the true price of the uniform that they were selling was actually a lot higher than anything else. Sorry about the noise here. So
Patricia, we lost you.
I know I have to switch to my
Okay, can you hear me now?
It's very fuzzy.
Can you hear me?
It's fuzzy. Maybe
Yes,
maybe
Patrick.
Okay,
maybe
let's
show
try.
the
Can we hear?
slides.
Yeah, my mobile has died, so I can't really talk any better than this. So if you can hear me,
Anyway, we can hear you much better from here. Stay here.
can you hear me? Yeah?
Perfect.
Now we can hear
fine.
you clearly.
Okay, so yeah, sorry about that. Once they, let me get into this. So once they got into the true price of the uniforms that were being sold, and they managed to get the senior management team to realize that it was actually a very powerful thing for the school to have this second uniform sale. They got the go-ahead, so they were able to email parents to first of all donate uniforms and then obviously buy them. So what did they do? They set up these uniform sales at the parent-teacher meetings. And at those meetings, they were able to get a lot of the parents who were coming in to talk to the teachers to also go buy and buy at the second-hand uniform sale. Having set it all up, apart from learning that there's a lot more to it than just having a project and just doing something for charity and giving money, they obviously realized that there's a whole process around it, and they learned a lot that they will be able to take into their life as well. After the event as well, of course, they also learned that you can't just leave an event there. The things have to be cleared out. You have to have a place to keep everything, and we then have the reflection and the forum. So in Student Voice, we have a reflection forum where we go over what has been done, how can it be better, what can be improved for the next time, and how can we make it even more sustainable. So little by little, the project has been growing, and it's now been going for a couple of years, and it hopefully will continue even longer. So these are just some of the things that we did this year, and I'm going to stop showing this and come back to you. So in our school, what we did was basically channel the framework through the after school club, making it into the framework that the club would work through, giving the power to the students to implement really meaningful projects by following the steps and then realizing that there's a lot more to it. The MOGO concept has been very much ingrained in like most good, least harm, but also the true price, because in all of the different projects they've been doing, there's always the yes, but what's the real price? they can probably, remember me from this. And they're like, they'll come and say, oh, yeah, Miss Bergstrom, she was always about going deeper and before and after, and what was the true price of things. So I think that really stayed with them. Something important just to end this with is that some of the students who are in Student Voice and who have been working in this way, they have now changed a little bit their future prospects. And one of them who always wanted to do medicine, but she now definitely wants to do medicine because she wants to join Medics Without Frontiers. She wants to go into charity work. She wants to go further. She wants to do other things. Somebody who wanted to be an engineer actually now wants to do engineering, but he wants to do engineering in Africa to help, doing something meaningful somewhere else. So they really come into this way of thinking that is so important when you apply something like the solutionary framework. So they're becoming true solutionaries here. Sorry about all the technical issues.
No problem at all.
That was great, Patricia. Thank you. And thank you for sharing how you applied the solutionary framework to yet another context. I think people are starting to understand how flexible this is and how much potential it has. And last, but certainly not least, and so glad, Alfonso, I'm sorry about the mess up on the time. Welcome, welcome. So glad to have you join us. And are you ready to jump in, or do you need a few more minutes?
I'm ready, Julie. Whenever you
Excellent.
want, I can
Excellent.
start sharing. All right.
Well, we're going to turn it right over to you then, Alfonso, and to share what you did with your students and with the solutionary work.
All right. Can you guys see my screen right now?
It's blurred, but we can see it.
Okay. So there you go. So welcome, everyone.
Yeah.
Now, yes, perfect.
I'm Alfonso. I'm from Spain. I'm working at Keystone Academy Beijing, and I want to give a big thank you and credit to my partner, Daniel Nyans. And together we designed this unit that actually is marinated with the solutionary framework and following the NYP curriculum. So the title of the unit is, Are We Humans or Are We Consumers? We had this statement of inquiry, as you can see, explores the priority of our modern society in profit and efficiency, but this cause hidden costs. We have three main goals for this unit, as you can read right now, but at the end, we want our students to be practical, feasible, and create solutionary innovations that are tackling root causes for identified issues. Before I dive into the solutionary framework, allow me to share with you the inquiry process that we followed. So we started as consumers. We began by examining our identities as consumers and what drives our purchasing behaviors. Students reflected on their most recent purchases and considered whether they were driven by a need or want, which is not always easy, right? This led us to explore how blurred the line between needs and wants has become. And the next step, we unpacked the multiple psychological, emotional, and contextual factors that shape our consumer choices. At the end, we realized that purchasing decisions are rarely simple or purely rational. The next step is what happens beyond consumers, right? Somebody else has to be involved in all this game. To try to facilitate that, we use this kind of visible thinking routine. We imagine that we're holding a torch and we have only the light that our torch is shedding, and this is our perspective. So we are trying to model perspective taken in this. To ground the inquiry in something that they actually can relate, we asked this question to our students. And I don't know if you guess what is the item, but of course is bubble tea. We told the students, like, you as a consumer, you have different perspectives, different needs, and these are the guiding questions on the screen. And then we tell them, what about businesses, right? here we have students having a go. And then we created this classroom display. We said, okay, so as a consumers, what is our take in this micro universe that is bubble tea? And they did a great job. Of course, the opposite side was business. But then I prompted them, okay, so somebody else has to be involved in this, right? Eventually, they came up with workers. So we start again, brainstorming, annotating, and the final stakeholder, to my surprise, it was very challenging for them to identify it. I don't know if you may guess that, but of course, it's nature. This experience, I think, this kind of model of like systems map, it was really enriching, and they were able to see different tensions and how different stakeholders are coexisting among these, right? All right, so we took that display and we put it on a diagram like that. We printed, we went through that, and we want to model what was systems thinking. Not only model, but also at the end, we assess the critical thinking criterion in individuals and societies from NYP, how these stakeholders are connected, right? They connected through consumer goods, and we guide them to spot where values align and where tensions emerge. At the end, our goal is to surface leverage points for meaningful change. And I think Patricia talked about that. True cost, thanks to the Institute for Humane Education. This is a great routine as well. And I took a picture. I took my son, having a drink, and I asked him, what is actually the real price of this, right? Like, you see that this final product has so many items that you can see the Santa Claus hat, the thick stroke that people see, everything, and how this can only cost $3 US. So that was the beginning of that kind of thinking routine. And we more or less like identify like 3 different prices, right? Retail, manufacturer, and true cost. Then following the model, we present them the so-called product life cycle, right? You can see the extraction, then manufacturing, distribution, purchasing, use, and at the end, disposal. We give the students a go. We tell them different daily life objects. Some of them they choose a burger, another a phone, and so on. And here's some examples of their work. But then we realized, like, actually, this is not really a cycle. So that led us to the next step. And we were so fortunate to partner with experts and actually do a field trip. We partnered with an institute. It's the Swedish Institute for Waste Management, and they have an office here in Beijing. And they revealed very meaningful data, as you can see in the next slide, on how waste generations is increasing, and also like the transportation of that. And the next slide, it presents like the most important information for us. Like actually in Beijing nowadays, 30,000 tons of waste are managed. And there are 3 different ways to do that, right? Incineration, biochemical treatment, and landfills. But this is actually creating a lot of challenges like, rising population, informal recycling, high costs for creating these facilities. And, we, again, super lucky that we were able to go to an incineration factory. Kids were really impressed. They loved the trip. They were not very willing to go, but at the end, when they saw all that, I said, wow, so much is going on there. The picture in the middle, as you can see, is the landfills that are scattered around Beijing. Then our expert introduced the model of, the concept of circular economy. And the main takeaway is like, we cannot fully rely on recycling. We have to aim for reducing and repairing. So after all this inquiry process, and we try to summarize it in this diagram. As you can see in the purple box, these are the current challenges, like the current model that we're having. And in case you're wondering, the lock-in effect is like there's a huge investment from authorities to create these facilities. And therefore, we're tied to keep generating waste to justify the investment, right? So at the end, we really actually, this is the open question, like, can we do better? Is there any other way, like just relying on this model? And this is when we introduced the solutionary framework, right? So we started with identify, yeah? We went through our community and actually got inspiration as well from media. Let's start from media. So I don't know if any of you have watched this documentary. This is a must. Kids got punched. It was so genuinely like inspiring for them to watch, and they observe how corporations manipulate our psychology to feel endless buying, and how systems that seem sustainable.
Oh no, I think you froze.
Yeah.
Uh,
Alfonso. No, he's choppy. Alfonso, we are having a problem with connectivity.
Okay, wait.
Now we can hear you, I think.
Can you hear me now? All
Yeah.
good?
Okay.
All right. As I was saying, like, the documentary showed us like there are some sustainable programs, so-called sustainable programs, like, you know, big corporations, they create this incentive for donating clothes, but at the end, it's just ended up in beaches of, you know, wrongly called like third world countries like Ghana. Students actually realize like consumerism is not a personal process, but it's actually a structural, deceptive, and harmful system. This is a frame from the documentary, and you can see some activists going through the beach, like it's actually like, you know, festered by garments. And in the documentary, they reveal like there are 15 million secondhand garments every week sent to Ghana. And of course, this is overwhelming the local markets and then ended up in the beach, right? Another source of inspiration, this great book written by Bella Lack. The first chapter talks about consumerism, and we had a reading experience and how we are so, you know, like from the beginning of time related to this kind of so-called consumerism habit, right? All right. Next, community. So a little bit of context. We are a residential school. There are like 500 students, and we have a campus weekend in which the students cannot leave the campus and they have more freedom to socialize. In that day, weekend, some students noticed how quickly consumption patterns spike. And this picture on the top right, this is coming from a so-called charity event, like students are encouraged to sell for collecting funds for a charity. But you can see like students bought pre-packaged lemonade cups from a store just to pour them into a container for resale. This was a real moment of realization. And then we ask ourselves, like, why are we promoting sales that generate so much unnecessary waste? Here, this is a frame from a video. Like we told students the day after the campus weekend, we told them, you know what? Like we filmed, like you can see there is a station, like the delivery guys, they drop the deliveries, right? And we place a phone there for recording like for 10 hours or so. And I think I will be able to play like 10 seconds of it for your taste. Let me give it a go. Okay, here it is. Anyway, you get an idea. It's 9 minutes long and it went from day to night, you know? Not only that, we talked, you can see here the security office, we actually asked them, hey, can you please record all this data? And, you know, they were so great that they did. And we presented this data to them. As you can see, like, they are the minute, the gender, and at the end, in this time frame, 815 orders were made. So again, a moment of like shock, and this cold data made the issue really like a real issue, right? So next, we introduce the iceberg model. Many of you will be familiar with it. We told students to, okay, have a go, put there an event, this is an example, and then, go below till the mental model. As we get confident, we create again a classroom display, sticky notes here and there. And this is like throughout weeks, we keep populating that, right? And here is the result of it. It was really an enriching experience, and it proved to be like a great way to identify how complex a small event could be, right? Okay, this is an example from a student summative task. Like, I will tell you more about it later. But they were instructed to go through like observation and record what's going on in our campus. And this is a great example of the level of care and detail a student put to identify multiple specific behaviors, triggers, and locations tied to overconsumption, right? After the student had this kind of mapping, she decided like, well, I'm going to talk about instant noodles. So she tallied patterns. She focused her investigation on that. And especially like in our school, we have these meatless Mondays. Like, it has a huge pushback from students. They're not buying it. And because of that, they're ordering more food and they're not consuming what the cafeteria offers, right? The next slide is also from the same student. Like, I actually love this one, like how much she was able to really break down her thinking process, like what are the causes, what are the effects, and how to make a hypothesis to create a solutionary innovation. The next slide is the final version of this student's work of the iceberg model. This is, for me, like the best one that I have seen. And she was able to hack, the 5 different leverage points across surface behaviors and deeper root causes. And she layered solutions were mapped by implementation stages. Like, the level of detail is mind-blowing, in my opinion. Now we go to investigate. So as I was saying, we had a summative task, and we instructed students to go and do surveys, interviews, observational journals to really collect real data, right? Here you can see some observational journals related to consumerism. We instruct them and we guide them to conduct neutral, detailed observations. And they were focusing on patterns and context and behavior. And we told them, don't jump into conclusions yet, yeah? These slides represent like surveys that they made through peers. They actually contact through interview with cleaning staff, facility workers, admin. Like, the level of care and work that these students put into actually find real information within our community, it was inspiring. And the next slide, 1 second, sorry. You can see the effort of the student from event to create patterns and actually cluster them into categories and relate that. That's an example. And relating like the hidden cost of these kind of behaviors, right? Like, she framed it like social, emotional, systemic reasons. Again, another great example of how much the students were, diving into this kind of critical thinking model, right? So here, another system map, like what is cause and effect and so on. So this student is called Sophia. She visualized how different factors like cravings, deliberate habits, emotional needs interact to drive overconsumption in our school. For example, she linked snack consumption to social life and emotional craving. And I also liked a lot this visual, because she was linking events to mental models, which is really mind-blowing. And you can see like this mental model of buying equals solving, fear of missing out, were separated from real nature in Keystone. This student came up with these mental models through her investigation. Going next is innovate. So we want students to be inspired what is happening out there. And again, we went to the internet and we found out that in England, there is an association of creative advertisers, and they created this movement called Agency for Nature. So it's great example, because this effort called Agency for Nature asks, what if nature had a voice in our decisions? What if it had a seat at the table and they can actually recruit an advertising agency, right? We showed them the video that they were presenting this initiative, and we took these kind of tools, like these creatives use the best tools of modern advertising for not profit, but to reconnect people with nature. So we told them like, hey, whenever you're delivering your innovation, right, and you're trying to make a mind shift in your audience, you must tap into these tools. And then we looked at the campaigns that they actually deliver. And then we went through again, like what is the structure they're trying to disrupt and what is the insight and that small change that we want to influence in the consumer's mind, right? Okay, finally, implement. So now we come to the implement stage. This is not just for students, but for us as educators too. Now, I'm very sure I'm on the audience, like we have standards, we have rubrics to follow. So we try to really marinate and match the NYP criterion A, B, C, D with a solutionary framework. So we create a summative task following these kind of processes. So here it goes. This is the task sheet. As you can see, feasible action is at core of the summative task, and we are telling students you have to really prove that you're making a feasible and visible change in your audience. This is the overview we gave them. We told them that you're going to follow this framework, and then again we match it with the NYP criterion. So here's an example. So for humanities, individuals and societies, we have investigating, and we decided like this criterion B will have two phases. And the first one you can see is the inquiry and hypothesis. And this is linked to the first two phases of the solutionary framework. And then we guide them through different steps within that phase. We also gave them like a generic system maps, and you have to identify what is going to be the chain link that you're going to try to leverage and create most good and least harm. And as you can see, like the hidden cost is always related. They can actually choose between personal level, social level, or environmental level. Going to the phase 2 of criterion B, we put the first phase for solutionary framework, and it's innovate. And that was the requirements that we told the students you have to create, and you're going to be assessed according to this. For C is communicating. So how they deliver, how they implement, how they really connect with their audience. And then for A is how much they are showing their understanding of their system or the complexity of their identified issue, and how much they reflect and how much they were able to understand the reaction, let's say, of the audience to their innovation. Yeah. This is a sample of the rubric. You can see the highest level of achievement for criterion A, and we really underline like authenticity, honesty is important. So now I'm going to show you some students' work with this kind of summative. But before that, my slides didn't work out, sorry. So you will see this is actually a reflection of a student after she went through the process. I will share with you more reflections, but she was able to really talk about how solutions should be not prohibitive, but like a gentle nudge for people to shift their behavior. Okay, so Evelyn, I chose this one because it's so cool. This is how we dry our hands in our school. We have that stack of papers, and actually like through observation and careful interviewing and surveying, Evelyn is, identified like that people grab multiple tissues at once, right? Whenever like we cannot really need that many. So what she did is like she went to facilities, she asked for how much we're spending on this, or the data, right? And have a really good understanding of this complexity of this small event. So what she did, in order to, she was designing her innovation, she found on the internet that there is so-called the cotton towel revolution, right? Like there is a technology like it can be reused a paper towel. So what she did is like she reached out to external companies. She gathered different opinions from our community how this innovation would look like, how much can be welcomed. And here's the data that you can see in that slide. So what Evelyn did at the end, she pitched to our senior leadership team, which received positive feedback, and they are in the process to see how we can actually do this in the next school year and replace all these single-use paper towels for this kind of reusable system. Also, Evelyn worked like when she submitted her summative task. She made sure that she was talking about all this terminology. And I'm just showing you this because, in my opinion, this shows like profound understanding of systems. And related solution for another student is like to give you another snapshot. Others, they were taking like creating pledges and make students sign, or teachers and so on. We had like 130 projects, and because the circumstances of this presentation, I cannot show you many, but I'm happy to show more. And I think this is the last one I'm going to show, right? Azaria. So Azaria, I like it because it's super creative too. So again, she began with observations like food delivery waste, right? Like she saw a lot of trash. She investigated behavioral drivers like stress, peer bonding, and poor cafeteria options. And she made a link like with emotional and social needs to unsustainable consumption patterns. What I like about Azaria's solutionary innovation is like she framed a hypothesis around biological and emotional cycles. She suggested that fast food satisfied more than hunger, but it becomes a coping mechanism. She created that kind of visual everything okay? Yeah. Right.
Yes, but we have to wrap up because people need to leave. And so I know you're almost done. And this is amazing work. Nobody wants to rush you.
I'm sorry. Okay. 3 minutes. So what she did is just basically like, okay, so students are consuming all these highly sugar snacks to try to satiate some craving. But what she actually did is like, she proposed a nutritious balanced recipe as alternative to fast food cravings. And she noticed that in our cafeteria, meals tend to focus heavily in either carbs, like nothing is mixed, right? Like you can get the chips, you can get the meat and so on, but there is no combination of all of three. So she drawing on research about how protein intake reduces cravings. So she designed flavorful vegetarian options that are emotionally comforting. So she created these recipes. She talked to the cafeteria people, and they made a pilot. They offered that, and the next day, it's just combining all these like protein, carbs, and so on. And not only that she's collecting data right now. Yeah, like how much is just this solutionary innovation being received by our students, right? I'm finishing. So just showing you reflections that your students wrote. And to me, this highlights the whole value of this process, right? Like the action-oriented and ethical reasoning learning, right? Students that really are gripped by the process, like they want to do it more and more and more. Another reflection here. I love the ending. What began as an academic exercise became a lesson in how knowledge, when communicated with clarity and passion, can inspire collective responsibility. And another reflection on our student, highlighting the positive thought and the positive impact of this model. And my final thoughts, I'm done. Feasibility isn't just about practicality, it's about identifying a leverage point and pouring your heart into it, ensuring that it leads to a beneficial and holistic systemic change. And real-world and student-led investigations are compatible with our academic outcomes. Grades and solutionary innovations can coexist. And I'm done. Thank you so much.
I don't
With the
think you're
prep.
done. I think you're only beginning. And I think that this work is totally extraordinary, Alfonso. And I want to see it published. And I want to see you able to share it with so many more people, especially in the IB community, who doubt that they can marry these things. And you have convincingly shared how you brought your students these ideas and then showed the incredible things that they did with that and with your support. So thank you so much. I am so sorry about the time change confusion, and just want to thank you, Alfonso, thank Patricia, thank Noah. This was outstanding. I had no doubt. And it's very inspiring for me that everybody can see all over the world all the different ways that this work can be used and how it can be done in all kinds of different levels and of depth, all the way from the small to the large, to really empower student agency and optimism and also develop their skills. Thank you so, so much. Everybody, I have put the link to the next course in the chat. And please contact the Marcella and Auntie if you need to reach any of the people who presented today because you want to talk to them further and you want to connect with them. Please do that. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you to all of the people who are here, who have taken the course, who have brought this work to your students, because again, together, we are going to create a generation of solutionaries. Thank you so, so, so much for taking this time with us. Have a wonderful, wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you very much. Patricia and you, Alfonso, great presentations indeed. We are very proud of you. We are very proud of your being members of this club. Now, let me now yield the floor to Noor Antia Sisa from Indonesia, who is GTC Global Teachers Club founder, one of the Global Teachers Club founders. Auntie, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Marcela. Yeah.
Sorry,
After
Alfonso,
some
can you
time.
please stop sharing screen? Thank you. Okay, Auntie, the floor is all yours now. We can all see you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, it's been a long time not to hear from you, Marcela. And thank you also for Julie for being here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. This month, we recommend our activity after break for quite some time. What a fantastic night we've had at the showcase of cohort third, the third cohort, sorry. Our theme, education, a generation of solutionaries, could have been more vital today. We are so grateful to Julie from the Institute for Human Education, who opened our minds to what it truly means to be a solutionary. Tonight, we have been inspired also by incredible educators from Beijing, Alfonso, and then Pakistan, Noah, and Spain, Patricia. Their stories showed us the immense power of education to foster critical thinking, empathy, and positive change as the solutionary. Your next step, join our new cohort. Yeah, so feeling organized already? Then I have great news. Yeah, we have opening the registration for the next Global Teachers Club cohort. This is a 12-week online course designed to help you to become an even more impactful educators. Yeah, as a solutionary. And here's the best part, it's completely free for all Global Teachers Club members. Don't miss out. Make sure you submit your registration form by July 25th. Thank you all for being here tonight. Let's keep working together to educate a generation of solutionaries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Auntie. Thank you very much for your words. And I would also like to take this opportunity to, let's say, to say thank you to Casey, who is also here and who is facilitator of, let's say, solutionary teaching and learning, and to Marcos, who is also solutionary facilitator of solutionary teaching and learning, and who are doing a great job in creating a generation of solutionary teachers. So we are really very, very grateful for your being here. And I would like to close this meeting with a phrase. It's not a phrase, it's a paragraph from Zoe's last book. Zoe Whale is the author of 2 books, more books, but the world becomes what we teach, and the solutionary way in which you are going, which, let's say, outline the solutionary framework. And the phrase is this one: if you become a solutionary, in addition to making important contribution in the community and the world that lead to a healthier, happier future for others, your own life will be enriched. You will have tools for bridge building and meaning making. You will make new friends and build collaborative relationships. You will develop a greater sense of agency and efficacy. This is not a feel-good book, but you are likely to feel better if you read it. Put it into practice and share the solutionary process with others. So if you haven't been inspired by these 3 amazing teachers, I don't know what you are waiting for, right? The solutionary framework, the solutionary micro-credential course is the answer to your future lessons, okay? So people, join our cohorts, okay? And we are all very grateful to have you here today.
Thank
Now,
you, everyone. Can we
that's
just
it,
ask the
Julie.
presenters to stay on for a moment, and anybody else who wants to join a very short conversation who has already taken the course. Other than that, we will say goodbye and thank you again to everybody else.
Before leaving, Julie, I would like to take a picture, if you don't mind. Please, could you turn your camera, if you can turn your cameras on, it will be great. Yes. And we are going to have a great picture of this meeting. Okay, thank you. Oh, how many wonderful teachers have joined. We reached 50 participants in the meeting. Amazing. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much for joining us. If you would like to stay, we invite you to stay. If not, you may all leave, and see you in our next meeting.
Thank you so much
Bye-bye.
for everything. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
It's been our
Marcela.
pleasure. Thank you,
Alfonso,
Auntie.
we
It's
need
been
to
a
write
real
an
pleasure.
article. Actually, you need to write it. I will just help. I'll do it out of my computer.
We have a